All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:02. Can I get someone to make a motion to accept and approve the agenda, please?
I make a motion to accept and approve the agenda.
Perfect, thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you, Jessica. Any additions, subtractions? Nope. Okay. All those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's see, communications with parents, citizens, and staff. Jeremy.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy Gildrian. If you don't know me, I'm on the OVUU board. I'm a parent of 2 students at Leicester School. I wanted to bring up some comments for the complaint about school personnel policy, KLD. So the OVUU board reviewed this right, I think, when I was appointed to that board. So I never made any comments, so I'm bringing them now. I saw that it came directly from the model policies on the Vermont School Board Association site. And I think there's some conflicts of interest and potential problems with this policy that I wanted to bring up to all of you. So resolving complaints is the heading, and it's describing how one goes about resolving complaints. And the first line is any complaint should first be brought forward to the individual directly associated or closest to the incident or issue of concern. And I wanted to mention that I think that can be problematic for parents, students. An example of not wanting to bring a complaint directly to the person involved is that as a parent, if I have a complaint about something a teacher is doing, I would be concerned that if I would then single my kid out, and if I go and complain directly to that teacher and say, hey, you know how you should be doing your job, that the rest of the year my child as a student would be negatively impacted by that. So I feel like there should be leeway to not directly address the complaint or concern with the person involved. I feel like a more open-ended approach to the complaint would allow people to feel more comfortable bringing complaints forward, reasonable complaints. And I do understand and feel like this was written so you're not just having a million like unwarranted complaints on and on and on all the time. However, I think reasonable complaints from reasonable people might be discouraged if they feel like they have to directly address the person that they have a complaint against. So that's one thing. The second thing I think is a potential conflict of interest is in the next paragraph down, the very end of it, says that the superintendent, I'll just read it. It says, in the event the administrator's review does not lead to a satisfactory resolution, the complainant will follow the chain of command and present the issue to the next administrative level up to the superintendent for final review and determination. So what I see as a conflict of interest, or a potential one, is that if the complaint is about the superintendent, then the superintendent is the final arbiter of complaints for the superintendent, which doesn't seem like, nothing against you, Kristen. I don't think you're going to do anything like this. But they could just basically sweep that under the table. There's nothing in here saying that those complaints have to be brought to anywhere else, and that the way it's written, all complaints end with the superintendent, who can then, at their own discretion, choose to share those with the various boards or not share them. So if the complaint is about the superintendent, the boards never hear about complaints from the superintendent if you have a bad superintendent. So I feel like the policy should be changed so that there is a different process specific for the superintendent. It makes sense that they are the final arbiter of complaints about everyone below them in the hierarchy, but not for themselves. Then the last thing, somewhat not related, is under appeal to the board. The third paragraph says that no member of the school community shall be denied the right to petition the school board for redress. However, concerns shall be referred back through the proper administrative channels for appropriate investigation and action prior to review by the board. So I think there's a potential conflict with the policy governance for, I looked these all up, it's RNESU, OVUU, and Barstow all have policy 3.2.2, which is accountability of the superintendent. And the 2.2 is the board will not evaluate either formally or informally any staff other than the superintendent. So if you were to have an appeal that went to the board that was about someone who was not the superintendent, then they could not actually review the complaint, even though here it says if it's gone through the proper channels, the board can review the complaint. So if it was a complaint about a teacher, the board would then be formally reviewing a staff member.
Okay, so those are three? Because I
That's
want to answer a couple of them. All right, so to the first one, about if you don't feel comfortable going to the person that you have the conflict with, or that you have, like if as a parent you're not happy going to the or to the teacher directly, we have always gone by the fact that if you don't feel comfortable, then you go up to the next step immediately. So if you don't feel, I've done the same thing myself. I don't feel comfortable going to the teacher, I go directly to the principal, and then we go that way. And then they can talk to the teacher, and they don't necessarily have to bring up your name or anybody's name. They can just address the situation, and hopefully the principal can fix whatever situation you're having, or at least answer that.
If that's what I've done myself also as a parent, but it's not how it's written here. It's the official policy is
Okay.
you shouldn't do that.
Okay, well, but that's the way we've always done it, kind of. The second one, which was the conflict of interest, about the superintendent itself. So if there is a complaint for the superintendent, it actually, I thought it did come to the board, or at least I'm supposed to be notified. Someone's supposed to be notified. I will, but we should make sure that the policy also sticks to that. And as far as when the board gets involved after, like if you don't like what the teacher said, and then you don't like what the principal said, and then when you don't like what the superintendent says and you come to us, all the board does is look at to make sure that the superintendent do their due diligence. We don't actually look at the entire case and say, oh, we don't like what you did, we're going to overturn your decision. Only in the case if the superintendent did not do their due diligence. So it's weird, I realize, because sometimes you think, oh, I'll go to the board and I'll get my whatever done, but all we're going to look at is whether or not due process occurred. That's all we've done in the past. That's how Jeanne had expressed it to us.
And so if due diligence is not done, then it would go back to the superintendent. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be in conflict with 3.2.2. You just constantly reevaluate the superintendent. Exactly.
So, but that's how we've done it. But that doesn't mean that we might want to relook at the way this is worded to make sure that we're doing what the policy specifically says. Jess.
I just wanted to clarify from the beginning, what policy was this? It was A something?
It's a KLD. So if you look up K, yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So, any questions? We don't normally have public comment from the board, but since you're a board member and this is our policy, does anybody have any questions for Jeremy or comments? Okay, so probably what we'll do is we'll pull this back onto another agenda and address your questions, and then we'll let you know what we won't do it tonight because we didn't formally do that, but we will bring it onto the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Take care.
Did you see the modulars?
Look at those big smiles. The
I know.
modular is at
I
Leicester.
know. I
Hooray!
tried to climb into one tonight.
I got pictures sent to me this morning by my son, so that was very cool. All right. All right. Other things. I will just note that we did receive a thank you card from Jeanne Collins Deweese in regards to her brother passing, and we had sent flowers to the funeral. So that was in your packet. I haven't received any other communications, and neither is Kristen, so we will move on to consent agenda. Anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
All
That we
right.
accept it.
All right. Jacob making a motion to accept the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Second.
Okay.
I beat you.
All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. It passes unanimously. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Kristen, is there anything you'd like to note at the RNESU level?
I don't think that there's anything that OVU and BU haven't done. Nope.
Okay, great.
Is there any information on the judgment yet?
There's no change.
Okay.
There's no
time frame.
there's no reasonable change. We've already received requests from public schools or from private
Right.
schools for their dollars. There's no change. We're still waiting for the signed stipulated judgment from the judge, which hasn't come yet.
It won't.
We shall see.
Ooh, okay. Wow, the suspense.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, moving on. There's a monitoring report in here from Kristen on 2.1, treatment of students and parents and guardians. And if I turn this over, maybe I can see it. Can I have someone make a motion to accept 2.1 so that then we can talk about it?
I make a motion.
Okay, so Jess is making the motion and Rob
second
Ben
it.
would like to second it. Thank you. All right, discussion. I don't think I saw anything in my. So I do have one question. When you say status in compliance in progress, does that mean that you're in progress of being in compliance?
No,
Or-
it means it is in compliance, but there are changes that we're making
Oh.
that have it be ongoing. So
Okay.
it's compliance ongoing, compliance in progress.
Okay.
It's not just shelved.
Okay. All right. Well, that was one of my questions. Um. So if there's no other discussion, I would be willing to vote. Are you ready to vote? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so all of those in favor of 2.1, monitoring report of students, parents, and guardians, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you for that. We're gonna move on to our board monitoring report. Actually, 3.2, accountability of the superintendent, which I think was something that, Jeremy brought up. So this is something that we did last year as a board. Hello, Barbara. Hello. We're on, our monitoring report 3.2. So, can I get someone to make a motion? Actually, before we make a motion, in reviewing our accountability of the superintendent policy that we reviewed last year, did anyone notice anything that needed to be changed or added? Not hearing anyone. So if no one sees any changes, then I would think that if we could make a motion to accept this monitoring report with no changes.
So moved.
Okay, thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and it passes unanimously. Look at us go. Oh my goodness. All right, well, we're going to be here for a while because now we're going to talk about policies. Actually, we'll start with setting budget parameters. So as you know, the RNESU budget is required to be finalized before OVUU and BUU so that you can have your segments put into your budgets, which means that we will have to approve the budget by mid-December. The question is, does anybody have any specific parameters for the administration to come up with the budget? And specifically, I guess, is, do you want to make sure that all of our programs are kept? Do you want to make sure that something is added that we don't currently have? Yeah.
I would just like to make sure that with this safety thing coming on, that we don't have
Safety audit.
extra costs that say, I don't think we do from what I've heard, but the consideration that is our budget going to increase because all of a sudden some unforeseen security thing we have to do
Oh, right, with all of the,
come November 5th or whatever,
okay, yep.
just to be aware of if that's going to affect anything.
Okay, so we're asking the administration to be aware of any safety requirements that we don't currently have that might be required going forward. Is there anything else that we wanna? Specifically, I don't know that we really, I mean, Marcia does a really great job. She only keeps the positions that she needs in special ed. Transportation is transportation. You know, you still have to cover the same amount of ground. Food service is food service. I'm missing one.
Curriculum.
That, the most important one, of course, the curriculum. So, and I would leave it to, to Tyler and the rest of the gang to determine if we need to make any curriculum changes, and that he would discuss that at our board meeting. Okay. There any other budget thing? Yes, Becky.
And thinking about all of the stuff that Marcia oversees, I'm just wondering if this does tie with budget, so give me a second.
Sure.
If we have noticed, any increase in bullying, harassing, social emotional stuff by having, all of our extra programs removed, and wondering if we need to consider any of those again, or are we in a good place?
So I wouldn't want to suggest that Marcia's oversight of a program, either on or off campus, had any direct correlation to HHB or incidences of Title IX, right? Marcia's programs are strictly related to alternative programs, students on IEPs, students with autism spectrum disorder. That's not an easy path or jump to instances of hazing, harassment, and bullying. So I would go out on a limb to say no. Marcia's programs students being more off campus is not necessarily Marcia's long-term goal. She's articulated she wants to have students return to RNESU in these systems, but more about having those students be in-house, and it actually is a cost neutral or cost savings to not bus students to alternative or to different sites. But incidences of hazing, harassment, and bullying, behaviors that have spiked over the last couple of years, not directly tied to the pandemic, but exacerbated because of the pandemic. We've been dealing with in-house, and that's the reason for changes like the Dean of Students shift, restorative practices addition at the Otter Valley. So for next year, we're anticipating at this point most of those positions continuing on. If that makes sense and answers your question. Okay.
Okay. Great. Anything else that we should let the administration know that we want to see or not see in our budget? Any changes? Okay. Well, there you got your marching orders. All right. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to talk about some RNESU policies for action. This first group is our second reading, meaning that we would adopt them. The first policy is JFCJ, weapons. If I could get someone to make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Okay, Jessica is seconding. Thank you for that. Discussion on this policy. Did anything come up in your respective district boards that we should know about or think about changing?
This is a model policy, it's a model policy, yeah.
Yes. I know, I think we talked a little bit about at OVUU, something about,
Things that were already in the classroom that would be used for cutting, that was one thing that came up?
one thing, but there was also about, like if you're off campus, like if you've gone to
Like a away game or?
an away game, or if you've gone on a school field trip or something like that. And,
And is that covered by this policy?
Right.
Is that the question?
I think so.
I can't remember if we determined that it was
I
covered.
I think we just said that we would send it back to this board to look at it. So it talks about school grounds or property, and then which means facilities, building, fields and grounds areas, blah, 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 or any other setting which is under the permanent or temporary supervision and or control of Rutland Northeast. So that should cover anything that is, if we're at a field trip, if we're at an athletic game, any, overnight field trip, things like that. Would everyone else concur with that?
I would concur. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm assuming a lawyer has.
Well, yeah, these have,
This
right,
or-
We actually have had incidents this year where we've had to lean on the policy and have a conversation with our attorney, and it does in fact
And it does.
hold.
Okay.
Okay.
It covers those.
Yes.
Those situations. Okay, that's
Great.
good to know.
okay.
Is there anything, I mean, this is all reactive of on school, but is there any way to protect us from a student acting in a way outside of school that would suggest that we're gonna have a problem with them on campus with any kind of, you know what I'm saying, you always hear about these cases where, oh yeah, I was at home, he's saying he's got guns and he's gonna do this, that, and the other thing. We can't protect ourselves. It's great to be reactive and say, yeah, this is what happens when they get to school with the gun, but how about cutting them off before they get there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just say that isn't something we can dictate in policy because we can't mandate what law enforcement does and doesn't do for us. But it is a part of our emergency operations plan. Again, I don't want to continue talking about things that are, tough stuff in this sense. But for instance, we have had an incident where the community and the police were aware of some potential threats, potential access to weapons, and it was after hours on a weekend, and they immediately notify the school. They immediately notify us, or myself, the principal, so we do have an open relationship and collaboration. We also have the same with the state police. So Doug Norton is the head of the state police, and he is our liaison. So for instance, last year there was an issue that wasn't a part of the Pittsford community, but could have potentially rippled through the Pittsford community that caused us to do a lockdown as a very preventative, not necessary, but out of an abundance of caution. That was fully done because law enforcement has such an open line of communication to the schools. So that's more about the safety audit, the safety planning, the emergency operations plan than it is actually about policy, because I don't know how we could mandate to an outside agency what they do and don't do for us.
It's also about relationships.
Yeah.
It's about making sure we have good relationships with those.
Those agencies.
Yeah.
Sounds
And
like-
it is also in our handbook what staff do. So if staff find out something,
That's, I guess.
so that's in our
that-
handbook.
Okay, that's where I'm questioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so all of those in favor of JFCJ weapons, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Our next one is JEB, kindergarten entrance age requirements and instructional replacement of newly entering primary students. Oh, say that twice. Sorry. So this one, we had a little bit of, actually, can I get someone to make the motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Okay, so I will start this one off. There was some discussion at OVUU about this as far as, you just realized, didn't you? Sorry.
Way to go,
Yeah,
Barbara.
there we go. Now, we're gonna have to start from the beginning. No, so there was some discussion as to, kids coming into school, about the age requirements. Barbara, do you remember, or Becky, do you remember specifically what it was about? Making sure that kids entered the correct classroom? Cause there was some discussion about, kids being pushed into a higher grade than than they should be. I believe Kristen wanted us to know that this is really based upon when they actually begin school, not necessarily that they're a kindergartner and mom and dad are coming and telling us that they should move into 12th grade because they're just so smart. And they're gonna be going to college next year, so, but anyway, so this policy specifically talks about when, a student enters RNESU and what, the requirements are for that, right?
Yes, and the conversation was specific to, for instance, students that may be on an IEP at the pre-K level. Are they getting the correct level of support and intervention they need if they were of an age that was potentially limited by this policy? After we had the meeting, I did have a conversation with Marsha Bruce, our Director of Support Services, and she said always the law, right, so a student on an IEP would supersede this policy. So if the team decided this was a student who was 4 years and 364 days, say 1 day short of the policy, and yet the IEP team decided that this already enrolled student was appropriate for kindergarten, then the IEP team would place the kid. So it's fine. Brent's question was specifically about students on IEPs, students,
Okay.
us having this policy preventing kids from potential need for additional support. It doesn't do that. And in fact, this policy only speaks to newly entering primary students. So if a kid has never been a part of our program and wants to enter at 3, at 4, at 5, at 6, what grade they would say they were a part of. If a kid was already ours at 4, this policy doesn't even apply to them anyways.
Okay.
So it's only newly entering students without any history to us before. This policy says you have to be this age.
Okay, right. And if they're not on an IEP. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of JEB kindergarten entrance age requirements and structural placement of newly entering primary students, please signify by saying aye.
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 Perfect. And that passes unanimously too. Next policy is AMB, policy on non-discriminatory mascots and school branding. This is a new policy. I believe it is set up, it's a model policy directly from the VSBA. Can I get someone to make a motion, please?
I'm on a roll, so moved.
Okay. Well, you're definitely not doing your other job. So, can I get someone to second it? Oh, was that you, Brett? Did you second the policy?
I'll second it.
Okay, great.
We're a
Thank
team
you.
here.
We're a team.
All right, you guys got it down pat. All right. Is there any discussion regarding this? I know we had some discussion at OVUU about, if somebody came to us and said, they did, some wording was, they thought that it was a little jargony, they were worried about someone coming to us and wanting to complain about, other people's mascots, and I was like, we would tell them to go complain to the people with that mascot, not us. So we have otters, and I think that they're snuggly little things, and I was told that they are not. They are vicious.
Yeah,
So they are vicious. The otters are vicious. So I'm not sure about the Barstow. Oh, the Barstow Bobcats. They're probably pretty vicious too. So
And
ha.
bees, killer bees at Neshabie. Oh my gosh.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Doesn't have a problem.
so maybe we do have to rethink our branding. But
The stinging nettles. How about that?
yeah, there you go. If there's no other policy discussion regarding this, I'm ready to vote. I don't know about you guys. Okay? All those in favor of policy AMB, policy on non-discriminatory mascots and school branding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Perfect. Unanimous it is. All right. So this next set of policies are our first readings. So we will be looking at these, then we will be sending them out to the two districts, OVUU and BUU, to look at, and then come back to us for a final approval. The first one is policy JCE, substitute teachers. This is a policy we currently have and we need to renew. Can I get someone to make a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. You get a second?
I second it.
And Robin is seconding, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, discussion.
I have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Sure.
GCE, wasn't it?
Yeah, GCE. Did I say
GJ.
something else? Okay. GJ.
Does 30 consecutive calendar days in the same assignment mean that if I was substituting for you, Lori Bertrand, I could do that for 30 days and then I could go substitute for another teacher for 30 days?
Yeah, I believe so. That is correct. Without being a long-term sub, right?
Correct,
'Cause
same
they're-
position.
Same position. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
And we need that, right? We have subs who sub in our buildings every single day.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We love our substitute teachers. So if anybody's watching that are thinking about becoming a substitute or want something to do during the day, we're looking for substitutes, so please.
I was on
Call us.
I was on CAX this morning saying the same thing.
There we go. 802-247-6833.
Fingers crossed. I said, we'll take anyone.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor of our policy GCE, substitute teachers, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, unanimous it is. Excellent. Okay, next one is policy JGA, admission of expelled or suspended students. So this is a renewal also. Can I get someone to make the motion to accept?
So moved.
Barbara, and a second?
I'll second it.
And Robin, thank you. Any discussion?
See, this way, in the minutes, they can just cut and paste, that I moved, he seconded every single thing.
Oh, yeah, what were they thinking?
Okay, so I don't see anything. Essentially, if you have been expelled or suspended, you're not coming back until we tell you that you can. So, them's the rules. Alright, so all those in favor of policy JGA, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Alright, passes unanimously. Thank you for that. Our next policy is JH, which is Federal Child Nutrition Act Wellness Policy. This one has been revised. You will see any changes stricken in red, I believe,
And added.
and added. Can I get someone to make the motion, please?
Yep.
Okay, Barbara
I second
and
it.
Robin, excellent. If only your name was Batman.
Oh, wow.
I know,
How would
sorry.
that make it faster?
I don't know, but it would make it more fun.
Oh, so clever.
Alright.
Careful of that branding though.
Oh, that's right.
Ready?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Federal Child Nutrition Act Wellness Program. So, you want to talk to the changes at all?
No, I mean, we pretty much took out the section about snack. We don't have vending machines anyways, and what we do have is an occasional snack as a treat, for instance, for a school celebration, for a birthday, for a PBIS award. And the policy really prohibited schools from doing things like that. So very few people want their cupcakes made from the lunch program.
Can't imagine.
We're finding that. We're finding that. So that was the reason for that change, and we did a little research, and no schools around us have that anymore as a part of their policy. So we
Okay.
felt pretty good about that. And I think also taking out reset or adding in as its own clause, because it carries a lot of weight for us, that recess shall never be denied as a punishment for student behaviors.
I was glad to see that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any questions for Kristen? Okay. All of those in favor of policy JH, Federal Child Nutrition Act Wellness Policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. One more, policy KM, distribution of non-school related materials. This is a renewal. If I could get someone to make a motion.
I'll make it.
Okay, Barbara.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Robin. All right, I do not believe I saw any changes to this one. Does anybody have any questions, clarifying points, changes, wishes to be made? Okay. Hearing none, all of those in favor of renewing policy KM, distribution of non-school related materials, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. We're getting good at this, people. Alright, let's see, so we can stick that under there. Alright, next set of policies. RNESU policies for action, first reading, approved to rescind or renew. So this one, we actually get a choice, I guess.
Correct.
This next policy is policy BDDHA. It's public participation at school board meetings. Rescind or renew. So before I ask for a motion, what is your preference? Do you have a preference? Or is it really up to us?
It's really up to you.
Okay. So then what I'm going to ask on my board is whoever makes the motion needs to tell me whether or not we're rescinding or renewing this one.
Okay, I'm backing off.
What? Oh,
Whoa.
it got hard.
Whoa, it did, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Let me look at this a little bit more.
What was the reasoning behind possibly rescinding this and not keeping it?
I honestly, Jeanne suggested that it be rescinded and potentially into an admin memo. I said an admin memo doesn't guide the public.
Right.
So you either renew it or you rescind it. I wouldn't recommend doing an admin memo.
Okay.
I have no problem with the policy.
I don't either. I don't see
All
why.
right.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear.
I'll make a motion to approve the policy,
All right, and to keep it.
or to keep it, yes.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
You'll want to second that. All right. So discussion.
Back on track.
Jess has got a
All
question.
right,
She's
Jess.
Approving. I know, I like it, approving.
okay. All right. Excellent. All right.
Yeah, I think we need.
Yeah, I almost think that. I mean, I don't know that I would ever deny someone to speak at a board meeting. But you know, I think it's good to have something on the book somewhere that we can refer to.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice, it says you may, or the chair may limit the time, it doesn't say has to, but can.
Right.
You have that, you get that
Right.
authority, which is nice.
Yep. Okay. All right, then, any other discussion regarding this? So all those in favor of approving, or renewing, I should say, policy BDDHA, public participation at school board meetings, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is so moved. All right, this last policy, I think, is RNESU policies for action. This is a first reading, and we are being asked to rescind policy IGD, co-curricular activities. Can someone make a motion, please?
I move to rescind.
Okay,
I second it.
all right. So, do you want to speak to why we're rescinding this one?
I just don't think that there needs to be a policy for co-curricular activities. They're a part of our, it's like saying we have a policy for English language arts. It's a
Yeah.
part of what we
Kind
do.
of
Okay.
redundant.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions regarding that? Okay, so all of those in favor of rescinding policy co-curricular activities IGD, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's gone.
Boom.
Well, we gotta let the other two boards agree with us, but for right now, it's off of our radar. All right, so the next thing in our midst is consideration of 4.5 board members' code of conduct. This is based on the OVUU board discussion. What we found at the OVUU board was that, if I remember correctly, the code of conduct speaks directly to conflict of interest. Is that what this is about? And we discussed taking that stuff out and removing it because we already have an RNESU policy on conflict of interest, which is not attached here, but that's okay. So this is what is that all we took out of ours with
I
the
think
two?
so. I think so.
Okay. So this is up for discussion for RNESU to do the same for our 4.5 policy. So if someone wants to make a motion to that effect, or no motion, and we keep our policy the way it currently stands for RNESU, it's fine too.
So you're looking for a motion either to accept the changes that are here or not.
Or not do anything. Or
Right,
at
and
least-
even if you accept it, you still then have to actually go back and revise yours. This is to bring it up for consideration.
Okay.
Right, we actually have to look at our 4.5 and make sure that there's no other changes to it.
What was the reasoning again? I'm sorry, to rescind?
Yeah, so so it's not to rescind the whole policy, but it's to take out number 2 and 3, specifically because RNESU already has a policy for conflict of interest. And so for the policy 4.5 to talk about conflict of interest, was redundant, and so we took out any effect that we didn't want it to supersede or intercede or seed. We just don't want any seeding.
Too
So-
seedy. Getting seedy.
So,
I move that we accept the changes to the policy as written.
okay, so what we'll do then is, at our next.
Yeah, you don't need a motion, you
No.
just,
Okay.
No, so we're not gonna do it, so what we will do is for next meeting, we will bring forward the RNESU policy 4.5 with these changes for us to review at that point, and then that would be our second reading. Okay?
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, next piece of the puzzle is to review our annual work plan. As you know, we are in October, so we're coming into budget time. So we will be looking at our first review of the budget next month on the 15th. Let's see, we will also be looking at treatment of staff and communication. We're going to be looking at a lot. Oh my goodness. So, anything else that, I don't know that there's anything else we could actually fit into our meeting next month in order to finish before OVUU. So we're really just gonna be talking about budget. And we may push off our, policies to review just because we may not have time. Not yours.
just kidding. I just-
Okay, yeah. I know.
Me.
All right, so does anybody have anything else to bring forward to the board before, we think about adjourning? We don't need an executive session, do we? Okay,
I mean,
everybody has already had an update on para bus drivers, right?
Jessica, Jacob, and Robin, I don't believe did. I don't think they came to BUU, but because they're RNESU or
that's right.
OBU.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, so maybe we do need a little
You
bit of
probably
executive
do.
less-
From
executive
Becky,
session.
a quick update on Paris and bus drivers.
Okay, so, we need to do that in executive session.
Yep.
Okay, so then, annual work plan looks good to me. Let me know by email if there's anything that you want to be brought up at next meeting or in future meetings. Before we let everybody else go so we can do our executive session meeting, our next meeting is November 15th, which I believe is a Tuesday. At 5 p.m. we are at Otter Creek Academy in Leicester. Hopefully we'll be able to get into that cute little building that they got yesterday.
The trailer.
So cute.
No, it's not a
Too
trailer. What is it?
modular. It's a modular.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're getting so much.
Modular.
Pod.
Yeah, 2 pods. We're gonna put 2 peas in a pod.
Ah, I said it first.
Okay, we said it together.
Alright.
Alright, jinx, no give backs or whatever. Alright. So, alright, so I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session at 5:50.
I so move.
Okay?
Second it.
Alright, so we are in executive session.